Hello, lovely people. Welcome to another episode of the DATEABLE podcast, where we dig into the ins and outs of modern dating and how we can navigate through all of this together. We're in this together, damn it.
Yes, and how relationships change. That is the core of what we're talking about today. How our standards, how our desires, how everything of what we seek in a romantic partner and what a romantic partnership means to us. Maybe that's not evident by the title of this episode. Yeah, that's the core of what we're talking about today. We're really excited about this episode because there was this article that was circulating. It was in August 9th to be exact. I had to look back on our Facebook group too, because I remember this got posted there first. I always love our Facebook group to be the source of the new stuff.
Breaking
but then
news.
I saw it everywhere. I don't know about you, Yue. I saw so many influencers, podcast hosts, just circulation of this article. What's behind the rise of lonely single men? And we felt that we needed to get the author on this podcast so we could dive into it much more than this article.
He received a lot of backlash for this article, and it's
Yeah.
really for the title. I think people were saying, well, he's calling for lonely men to step up. How can he be so insensitive? I mean, there was just a lot of controversy around this article. So we thought we'd just bring him on the show instead of reading the controversy. Let's see why he wrote the article.
Yeah, but I think, I did see some influencers, podcast hosts, men specifically, get defensive, but I actually was really proud of how people in our Facebook group took it. And men themselves commented. I think it just speaks to the type of men that are in our community. And I sometimes actually forget the wider circle of men out there, because I feel like we're blessed that we attract people that are doing this work, are emotionally intelligent. And, I think that ultimately is the call out in this. He talks about Dr. Greg Matos is who we're talking to today. And he talks about how men need to address their deficits to meet healthier relationship expectations. And he basically talks about, we're going to get into all of this in much more detail, but dating opportunities, these are kind of his key points. Dating opportunities for heterosexual men are diminishing as relationship standards rise. Men represent 62% of dating app users, lowering their chances of matches. And then men need to address skill deficits to meet healthier relationship expectations. It's a lot to take in.
I mean, that's the thing, right? I think this is why this article got so much backlash, is who are you putting the responsibility on? Who is responsible for the rise of lonely single men? And we will discuss this, but personally for me, seeing and speaking to some of my single guy friends, a lot of them have really given up on love. They've given up on dating. They kind of feel like, you know what? If it happens for me, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And it's just so depressing to hear, because I know they're great men and they have so much love to give. But something about the state we're in right now is not building people up for success. So we need to dig into the root cause. What is a societal cause before we let this go down a really bad rabbit hole?
I think that's fundamentally what's happening across the board. And we've talked about this before, that we are in a love crisis. We need to save modern dating. And yeah, I think it's men feeling this way, but I think it's women. I think it's people that don't identify as trans or non-binary. I feel like it's across the board. It's just society as a whole. I think with hetero relationships, maybe it's showing up more. And correct me if I'm wrong. If other people have different opinions, love to do an episode on that in the future. But for this conversation, it's definitely geared more to hetero relationships. And I see it in our community. I see it with the people we talk to. Everyone is being down on love this day and age.
Yeah.
And in some way, it's really beautiful because it comes from a place of wanting more. We know we can have it. And, there was a quote actually that was in our Facebook group that was just I'm going to paraphrase it, but it was kind of we're our grandparents' relationships. the model that we're actually striving for, especially for
Yeah.
women. A lot of times your worth was like, what can you do in the kitchen? Or if your husband was cheating on you and you never stated your needs. And I'm really happy that we're moving out of that like this isn't what a relationship means anymore. We don't need a relationship for survival. But what comes with that is that we have these expectations, and we talk about this in the episode, that the differences of women and men, the way we're socialized, the way society portrays success, the way just everything about our upbringing is different. And we want more equality, which is great. But we're in this growing pain right now of how do we get to that stage. And where we are, in my opinion, is women wanting more and men not knowing how to get there. So it's just leaving both people discouraged, confused, and almost this sense of feeling like, let me just give up.
It's because we look at dating in such a men versus women type of way that we forget that we're all connected. If the men are hurting, women are hurting too. We can't be like, oh, well, we're surpassing you, so fuck you, buddy. We have to think about this more like we are connected to each other. And one of the reasons why we call ourselves dating sociologists is because it's fascinating just observing the societal shifts in dating. It's not just like the day-to-day of what you are all experiencing.
Yeah.
It's looking at the big picture of what's happening in society. And when we started this podcast 7 years ago, we used to get emails on the daily of people telling us their funny dating stories. That was the thing 7 years ago. Oh my God, can you believe what happened to me on this date? Can you believe what this person said? Can you believe this? Guess what? We're not really getting those anymore because telling funny dating stories doesn't really move the needle for people anymore. They're not entertaining anymore. Like, there's nothing that shocking out there anymore. But the emails we do get and the interaction we do get are people asking the question, how do I find love and why does it even matter? Why does it even matter for me? So we hope to answer these questions, not just in this episode, but on our podcast. Let's really get to the why of why we're doing this. Why are we dating? Why are we trying to find love? We need to find that why.
And I feel like if you're listening to this episode, you're already ahead of the game with her.
Yeah.
Especially if you're a hetero man is kind of the, target of at least this article. And, I think women, there might be frustration here, but in general, just listening to this episode means that we're on the right path of how do we come to a resolution. I want to read like a few comments we got in our Facebook group because it's always fun to do this. And I am just constantly impressed by the caliber of people. And I really fundamentally believe if you can be at that standard, you attract other people at that standard.
And this is in response to the article.
Yes, in response to the article. So we had from Eric, I'm glad to see women demanding more from men. I only wonder how many men will actually up their game in response. And I think that is a good, that is what we're trying to say here is we want more. We want fulfilling partnerships. We believe that men also want these fulfilling partnerships. Like, how do we actually work together to do this? Janice, our moderator, replied back saying that she's raising her child to have these emotionally challenging conversations, her son. And she said, but damn it, she said, it's work for him and for me, but damn it, some Gen Z woman will benefit from our effort.
Yes, that is true.
Yep. So then we also had a comment from David. He said, laugh out loud. He quoted the article. Dating opportunities for heterosexual men are diminishing as healthy relationship standards increase. Reflects very poorly on the way our society raises straight men, and totally rings true. I'm glad standards are increasing, and I hope men seek out resources to learn to do better. So then Brian wrote, as has already been stated, men need to bring more to the table. More and more, today's relationships should be partnerships where both parties are equals. In general, men fall behind in areas such as emotional intelligence. There are so many resources out there that men can learn from, but many men don't want to put in the work to be better. And then just the very last one I'll read from a woman's perspective, and I mean, there's so many, but from Ellen, it's true. In this era where a woman can earn her own money, she doesn't need a man. She must be presented with a reason to want one. And I think that is the mentality. And Janice also commented on this, that it's not need in a bad way. Like, we don't need children. We don't need a dog. We don't need whatever. It's ultimately you want to find something you want. And
Yes.
what women are desiring is that equal, is that person that's going to step up and treat them as a person. I think in some of our olden era, in some of the past eras, it was very one-sided. It was very unequal. Like, you were almost like the one doing all the household labor. Like, there was just so much that was wrong that we're trying to correct in today's world. So I think net, this really is a good thing that people are trying to rise higher.
Well, I would say I think there are a lot of men working hard. We just don't see it. And,
Yeah.
Something we should really commend the men who are working hard is thank you for doing the work, and also just keep us in the loop, keep us updated. I know so many men who are like, I'm not going to date or put myself out there until I finish working on myself, until I finish my therapy sessions. But what we're asking is, we want to be with you, alongside you for the ride, for the journey. We want to see your growth. Don't come to us with a perfect package, because nobody is. But let's grow together.
Yep. And women need to step up too. I'm going to relate this back to my favorite show.
Yes, we do.
Fuckboy Island. Fuckboy
Yes, we
Island
do.
is nice guys and self-proclaimed fuckboys. And how many women on that show dismiss the nice guys, saying that they're not interesting enough, they blend in, they're not aggressive enough or pursuant enough, and they go for fuckboys time and time again. So if we're the ones saying we want to do better, we also need to reflect that in our choices. And that might change the qualities we're looking for. That show is like prime social experiment of what we say and what we do as being different, and
so different.
things that we think are desirable traits of a partner that's ingrained in society that really do actually impact who we end up choosing. We have so many women, even in real life, outside of Fuckboy Island, that we talk to that are with these guys that are like just not treating them well. And there's so many of these guys out there that are, and it's like, it's up to us to also find the people that are doing this work and are stepping up.
Yeah, it's positive reinforcement, and we can't keep reinforcing the fuckboy attitude. It's in our choices, but it's also in the way we speak about men too. I spoke with a girlfriend of mine, and she's dating, and she's dating this guy who's super consistent and respectful and communicative, and she's yearning for that game playing. She's like, he's boring because there's no cat and mouse. But then when someone does the game playing, she says, then I say I'm too old for this shit. So I'm like, watch the way you're speaking about people and which bucket you're putting them into, because she's calling this guy boring because he's actually doing all the right things. He's
emotionally available,
girl.
is what it sounds like. Yeah, it sounds like this guy is a prime partner, someone who is ready to be in that equal partnership.
And if you're not ready for that, like, hand him over to someone else who is.
Someone's listening right now is like, sign me up. I'm in the LA area. I'm ready.
Yeah. If you are still in the game playing, go for that, right? Leave the nice guys who've grown, leave them out of this, okay? Like, give them to people who are ready for them. But it's just like, we also need to just watch the way we speak about men.
Yeah, and not to toot our own horn, but
I do tooting.
But I am. But I think, like, podcasting in general, not just us, in general, I believe that is a path forward, because it's made this type of work more accessible. You don't have to go to a therapist. I'm not saying you shouldn't go to a therapist too. Absolutely. But some of that's out of reach for people financially. It is more of a push to, like, get there. even buying a self-help book, for instance, feels like it could be more of a process. And I think more and more men are doing this too, but we know historically women are more of the target audience there as well. But podcasting has allowed for open conversation with a really low barrier, essentially.